What up YouTube, it's Missouri's Company. In this video, I'm going to show you the very best build for the Barbarian. I will lead that this is a very common build that I'm sure you have seen on other channels, some of which from several months ago even, because this is still a very good bread and butter build for the Barbarian. If you are new to the game or a returner or first time playing a Barbarian, this build is very, very strong. Obviously the best for the most general purposes. There's going to be several other builds for Barbarian that are good for PvP or for very specific situations like farming, but this is a very just overall the best build for Barbarian. For those of you that are like sort of masters at the Barbarian, this might not be the best build for you, but this is a best build for the most general public. I do want to preface this video with by saying all that, because I know on most of my build videos I do have subject matter experts, and I don't mean that sarcastically, because a lot of you do have played these classes more than I have, but I do want to be able to give a foundation to anyone who is being new to the game or a Barbarian for the first time, have a very good build they can build to for obviously free to play, and then progress to some of those other specialized builds later on. Now that we got all the intros out of the way, let's get straight to the video. Okay, so if you saw my previous video, I did actually finally beat Challenge Rift 204 with the Barbarian with a very unique build. That is not the same build that we're covering in this video. That was a very specific build for Challenge Rift 204. So before we get into the build, I do want to jump into an Elder Rift rather, and show you guys just what this build looks like in action, and then we'll break down the legendaries that I would recommend. Again, just like any of my other build videos, I don't necessarily go into my recommendations for, whoops, wrong way, wow, for legendary gems, because I do have a separate video that covers the best gems that I would say most people should take, and I would highly recommend you guys check that video out on my channel. But for this one, we are not looking at legendary gems. We are in the Elder Rift, looking for, you know, anything and everything. Obviously, we are sprinting through it in the most literal sense, as fast as possible. I've already missed so much time just from trying to get to the right spot. Story of my life. All right, here we go. Finally got some ads. Gonna pop our buffs and then just spin and win, get some CC, and then boom, they're dead. Love it, love it, love it. Get some sprinting action. Obviously, we want to try to keep our buffs up as much as possible. That's a big part of this build as well. We'll talk about the set items a little bit, but I do think we're in an interesting spot when it comes to set items in Diablo Immortal, because more often than not, combat rating is going to be what you want. Oh my god, we're just spinning around. More often than not, combat rating is actually going to be the stat you're going to want to push for. So there's not all that I would recommend. I mean, unless you are truly min-maxing your build because, you know, combat rating is a non-issue for you, which I don't think, if that's your case, you're probably watching this video. So I'll briefly, ever so briefly, get the damage buff, talk about the sets for this build that I would recommend, or for the Barbarian in general. But again, I do again want to preface that I don't actually have any set items on this build because I'm still just trying to push combat rating. I'm still under 9k combat rating, and I'm just starving to get more. Obviously, beating Hell or Challenge Rift 204 will help with that. All right, should be last few ads here. Let's get to the boss, see how it does. I will say that this build is phenomenal with multi-target, and the whole reason we have this skill right here, and the empowering of that skill, is so that we can do a little bit more single target damage, because Barbarian does very, like I said, very good with multi-target, not great when it comes to single target. If you saw my monk build, obviously the monk build was much faster when it came to single target, but this one felt, oh, I actually got a legendary gem. Everlasting Torment, sick. Can you sell those if you get them this way? I don't think you can, but there you go. That is the Elder Rift that we're going to conduct. Obviously salvage our gear. Now let's look at the build in particular. I will say, for those of you that have watched my videos, I've said this on several videos, I have not enjoyed the Barbarian. And if you want to see which class I changed to, stay tuned to the very end of this video, because I will actually be showing you guys which class I'll be going to next. So the Barbarian just feels very clunky to me. There are good builds, and this is the best that I would recommend for, like I said, the most general public. So for the head, I am running the Battle Master's Helm. What this does is demoralize is replaced with a war cry that increases all damage you and nearby's inflict. Allies inflict. So basically you and your allies do more damage. Nice little buff there. For the chest, we do the Gathering, which is Whirlwind pulls in all enemies damage, which is very good when when you're working with your main hand here, which I'll skip around to, which is Eager Maelstrom, because it is whirlwind radius increased, but whirlwind movement speed decreased. So because your movement speed is decreased, people, instead of being able to run away, by using this chest piece, it pulls them in and they're stuck in this massive whirlwind that you're doing. For the shoulders, Wrath of the Berserker cooldown decreased by 15%. That's a big cooldown that we're using, so having, or a buff that we're using, so having to be able to lower that cooldown is phenomenal. For the pants, we are running Sprint Now, also Swift Wing, which is Sprint Now also increases movement speed of all nearby allies. This is again is a party buff, so we are boosting our party speed and we are boosting our party's damage. We're basically taking the role of a support barbarian, and then in between we are spinning and winning. The only other thing that we're doing is on our offhand here, which is the Remembered, and that is what we are, which I mentioned earlier in the video, where Spirit of the Ancients, Hammer of the Ancients, now summons a Spirit of the Ancients who stuns all nearby enemies and fights alongside you for a time. This, in my opinion, just adds a little bit more of single target damage. Whirlwind obviously does a ton of damage as a multi-target, but outside of just your auto attacks, you don't get a lot of single target build or single target damage. And then the other two skills are really just party buffs, which are good. But then again, looking at the skills, I do use Frenzy. So most classes only have one good primary attack that you'd pick from. Barbarian arguably does have a viability for both of these, but for this purpose build, I do use Frenzy. You can make an argument Lacerate is very, very good for PvP from what I've seen. And obviously a little bit of heal is nice, but this one, the ramped up attack speed is really, really good for PvE. And then obviously the other skills we're using is Whirlwind, Hammer of the Ancients, Wrath of the Berserker, and then we're using Sprint. A few adjustments that I would recommend to this build is that if you're using this build and pushing challenge rifts and you aren't using the same challenge rift build that I used in my last video, I would recommend substituting Sprint for Undying Rage. Depending on your legendaries, you can actually buff this. There's a helmet that I used in that same build where you actually do auto attack or counter attack damage to people that attack you, which did give me very, very high amounts of value in that build video, which I did previously say, as I stated, which was in my last video where I did beat Challenge Rift 204. So that's going to do it for this video in terms of the build. Like I said, if you made it to the end, you are going to get a sneak peek as to what class I'm going to next. I'm actually going to go ahead and do it live right now. And I just realized I do have warband gear on, so that is going to be quite painful because I don't have anything. Do I have enough pieces to substitute it though? I don't think I do. Yeah, I'm off from one. So the reason I'm upset by this, and I will talk about it as we walk to the class change section, is that when you have a warband piece of gear on and you class change, this turns into a gold piece of gear, which does not feel good. So ideally, I would have had a ring. Wait a minute. I think I do have a ring. Go to the stash. I think I do have a ring now that I say that. But yeah, so this would turn into a gold piece and it wouldn't be as strong. So that's why it's really painful to do that. Stash, I do have a ring. Hex, yes. Not a good one though. So we'll take it. We will equip it. Please don't be the same ring so I can't. Equipped, switch finger. That's the one. That be the one. All right, cool. So now that we have that unequipped, now we can go to the class change. Thank goodness I remember that here at the last second. But yeah, so I have made build videos for several classes, and my goal is to cover all of them before returning to my main, which I still don't know, by the way, if it's going to be either the mage, the wizard, or the demon hunter. I do enjoy range classes, and both of those have a lot of really fun mechanics. Wow. Shout out to that in guild chat. Okay, so class change, I do have one available, obviously, because I've been on the Barbarian for a long time, honestly longer than I would have liked. I'm not putting too much hate, hopefully, on the Barbarian, but I personally am just not a fan. We have done the Monk, we have done the Wizard, we have not done Demon Hunter, we have not done Crusader, and we have not done Necromancer, but I will have a build video coming out that actually sooner than anticipated because I do have an alt that actually has a ton of gear on it and actually going to be able to use that as a reference piece for the build video for that. So I won't actually need the Necro. But for this, instead of the Barbarian, we are moving on to the one and only, pause for effect, Crusader. That's right, we're going to the Crusader. I'm very much interested in the Crusader. I've never played it. Let's try the new face. I think this is the newer face. I'm not going to customize it all. Just run with it. Class change. Boom. and confirm. So I am running the Crusader. I have literally close to no experience with the Crusader. I obviously know enough about them to PvP or PvE with them, but I've never used one myself. So I'm actually very excited for the Crusader, and I will be doing obviously several build videos about the Crusader. So let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments below. Did you enjoy the Barbarian build? Like I said, this is not the only build, but I think this is the best overall build for the Barbarian. And let me know what builds you use for your Barbarian in the comments below, and I will give you guys my opinion, good, bad, or indifferent. Let's have some good, healthy conversations, and until next time, guys, lock it in.